Horror games have a unique way of crawling under your skin, not just through jump scares, but through appropriate atmosphere, interesting storytelling, or even the creeping dread of the unknown. Over the years, the genre has evolved from relatively simple survival experiences to deeply psychological journeys that use tricks like mechanical horror or the inherent fear of the unknown to create experiences that linger in our memories long after the credits roll. With this feature, we're counting down 20 of the best horror games of all time, each offering a distinct brand of terror that lingers long after the screen fades to black. Silent Hill F. Silent Hill F takes the long-running horror franchise in a completely new direction, setting its story in 1960s Japan instead of the fog-covered town, for the better. Silent Hill F expertly blends psychological horror with grotesque body transformations, crafting a disturbing experience that is both tragic and mesmerizing. Each frame oozes dread, and the hauntingly beautiful visuals serve as a chilling contrast to the decay creeping beneath the surface. Chronos: The New Dawn. Chronos: The New Dawn is all about combining cosmic horror with science fiction that's set against the backdrop of a narrative about humanity trying to colonize a dying planet. The game's oppressive atmosphere, eerie silence, and cryptic storytelling all come together to create a suffocating sense of isolation that's highly reminiscent of Dead Space and Soma, and it's definitely a must-try for fans of this genre. Dying Light: The Beast. Dying Light: The Beast flips the formula on its head by letting players experience the horror from the other side as the infected. This is a dark and gritty spin-off that's quite experimental, and players get to explore the primal instincts of a creature struggling for dominance in a decaying world. The visceral combat, nightmarish visuals, and moral ambiguity of being the very thing that you once feared make Dying Light: The Beast one of the most interesting games of recent memory. Karma: The Dark World. Set in a dystopian version of 1980s China, Karma: The Dark World is a psychological horror thriller that blends together cyberpunk aesthetics with a deeply emotional tale that touches on themes such as guilt and regret. As an investigator piecing together a world built on lies and mind control, players are constantly confronted by surreal hallucinations and shifting realities that form the basis of combat encounters. Alan Wake 2. Remedy Entertainment took what worked with the original Alan Wake and created a sequel that amplified those attributes by a significant margin. But, unlike the original, which stayed in the action-adventure territory, Alan Wake 2 shifts the focus to a survival horror experience, where each chapter can potentially change the entire trajectory of the story, while serving some chilling horrors along the way. The Mortuary Assistant. The Mortuary Assistant turns what looks to be a seemingly mundane job into one of the most terrifying experiences in gaming. As you prepare corpses for embalming during the night shift, demonic forces begin to toy with your perception of reality. Its procedural haunt system ensures that no two playthroughs feel the same, keeping you constantly on edge as you try to uncover the mystery behind each possession. Beyond Hanwell. Set in the eerie town of Hanwell, Beyond Hanwell delivers a grounded experience filled with unsettling secrets lurking in every corner of the town. It's a slow burn that trades cheap jump scares for gradually building tension as the story of scientific hubris starts unfolding. It's a love letter to classic horror design, and one that feels fresh in a time when genres are highly homogenized. Phasmophobia. Phasmophobia gets rid of the traditional notions of horror games being strictly single player, and what we get is a co-op horror experience like no other. The game is all about coordinating between your teammates and using your tools to gather evidence about paranormal activities. And while there's always room for catching something off guard even after dozens of hours, Phasmophobia's tendency to create dynamic stories is something that keeps you hooked for the long run. Fatal Frame 2: Crimson Butterfly. Fatal Frame is widely considered as one of the most legendary series in horror, and Crimson Butterfly easily ranks as one of the best. Set against the backdrop of a haunted village, twin sisters Mio and Mayu must confront restless spirits using only the mystical camera, the camera obscura. The combination of a deeply emotional narrative combined with an innovative gameplay loop makes you feel powerless, coming together to create an experience that is sure to be a memorable and horrifying one. Dead Space 2023 Remake. A fresh coat of paint and a few quality of life adjustments are all that was needed to bring the original Dead Space back to life, and it's safe to say that EA Motive achieved that beautifully. Blasting through the necromorphs and exploring the many corners of the USG Ishimura is something that remains quite enjoyable even after all of these years, and Dead Space 2023 is definitely one game that you should check out if you haven't already. Silent Hill 2 Remake. Now, when it comes to remakes of legendary horror games, we have Silent Hill 2, which was recently brought to a new audience by Bloober Team. The foggy town of Silent Hill is filled with nightmares that feel like they're straight out of a fever dream, and James's journey of finding his wife is perfectly complemented by the illusion of going deeper and deeper into your twisted imagination, and coming face to face with all sorts of horrors. The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered. The Last of Us Part 2 is easily one of the most emotionally charged narratives of the last generation, and it continues to rank amongst the top when it comes to horror games. What starts as a simple revenge story turns into a philosophical tale that showcases the brutality of a post-apocalyptic world and the never-ending cycle of violence. And this sequel amps up the horror element with frightening boss fights and larger arenas. Little Nightmares 3. Much like previous games in this series, Little Nightmares 3 continues its haunting tradition of bringing childhood fears to life, blending together inviting visuals with ominous environments. This time, players must work together in co-op to survive a world filled with grotesque creatures and oppressive design. Every room feels like a living nightmare, and the environmental storytelling ensures that Little Nightmares 3 lingers in your mind long after the credits roll. Fear. Monolith Productions' Fear is a masterclass in combining cinematic action with supernatural horror. You take on the role of a super soldier, unraveling the mystery behind a psychic girl named Alma Wade, whose presence turns hallways into death traps and reality into chaos. The game's advanced AI and slick slow-motion gunfights come together to make Fear one of the most stylish and terrifying shooters of all time. Days Gone Remastered. Days Gone Remastered is one of the most misunderstood games of the last generation. It definitely has its fair share of flaws, but it also has an equal number of merits that need to be appreciated by fans. Days Gone Remastered's freaker hordes are definitely overwhelming at first, but they can grow out to be one of the best parts of the entire experience, requiring players to be on their toes at all times. Outlast. Outlast dumps players into an asylum lurking with all sorts of dangers and horrors, and you have nothing but a camcorder and your wits to help you survive against anything and everything that comes in your way. The asylum is dimly lit and home to several great jump scares, and the constant sense of cat and mouse chases that come from hiding in lockers and sneaking past enemies comes together to make Outlast one of the best games in its class. Alien Isolation. Alien Isolation is all about trying to hide from the deadly xenomorph that's lurking all around the space facility. The game has nailed the sense of mechanical horror, where a constant sense of fright is induced in the player, as any direct encounter with the alien will almost certainly result in death. And all of that is heightened to another degree with the alien's self-learning defense mechanisms. The Evil Within 2. The Evil Within 2 takes the survival horror formula and pairs that with an open world framework to create something that shouldn't technically work, but somehow does. Everything from the narrative to the boss fights and the cinematics has that element of horror, which makes The Evil Within 2 a truly great game. Layers of Fear. Layers of Fear is a deep dive into the mind of a tormented artist who is gradually losing his grip on reality, where every brushstroke unveils another layer of madness. The constantly shifting Victorian mansion is a gallery of horrors that shifts and swerves to blur the line between illusion and truth. Layers of Fear puts immense focus on psychological horror, and the gameplay resonates with the narrative as you dive deeper and deeper into the twisted psyche of the protagonists. PT. PT, short for Playable Teaser, is easily one of Kojima's finest works to date, and what makes it even better is the fact that it's just a short snippet of the full game that was going to be Silent Hills. In just a few minutes and a couple of short walks through corridors, PT establishes a distinctly eerie atmosphere, and several well-timed jump scares punctuate the journey to the grand reveal. Bonus: Resident Evil 2. One of the best remakes of one of the greatest survival horror games absolutely deserves a place on this list. Though it's appeared in several of our horror roundups before, there's simply no way we could leave out the iconic 2019 remake. Players step into the shoes of either Claire or Leon as they navigate tense encounters, solve intricate puzzles, and face off against one of gaming's most unforgettable pursuers, the terrifying Mr. X. So, what are your thoughts on this? Go ahead and share them in the comments below. And if you like this video, please subscribe to the channel and enable all notifications by clicking the bell icon to get new video updates. We upload every day and would really appreciate your support. Thanks for watching.